We'll get started with our regular city council meeting. I'm Mayor Staley. We're here in the city council chamber. Today is Wednesday, September 25th, 2024. Our meetings are streamed live and archived at washingtoncity.org/meetings. At this time, it's my privilege to invite Pastor Greg Wright with the Westside Baptist Church to come forward and start our meeting off the right way. Pastor.
Mayor and council members, I was telling Mayor beforehand that our church over the years has rotated through the different cities and the leadership, and we pray for you guys. And so every other month or so, you guys are brought up before the Lord in our church. It just so happened that this past Sunday was your turn. And so one of our men they live in Washington, and we didn't actually design that either. But he led in prayer for you guys, and so our church family is behind you. And so I sent the mayor a picture, and this is what we do on those Sundays in praying for you guys. Very nice. So we really are interested in the Lord blessing the communities as they seek his good for the people. So can I pray for us today? Lord, we do thank you that you are gracious and kind. One of your proofs of that is opportunity to live in such a great country in this great environment here. We thank you for your blessings that are evident not just in the environment, but in the well-being of the people that live here. We pray for those in leadership, not only because you've asked us to, but also because it's good for us. We thank you, Lord, that we can come to you seeking for peace and for righteousness. And so on the basis of that, we ask, Lord, for your blessing. Pray that you would lead and give wisdom, and that you would protect innocent, provide for each one, and give your blessing as we seek you as a community. And so we pray that tonight in this meeting, you would be honored and you would be free to have your will done. And we pray this in the name of Christ. Amen.
Amen. Pastor Wright, thank you so much. I on behalf of this elected body, we appreciate, we feel your prayers and your support. And if you would just pass along that appreciation to your congregation and to the brother who offered that prayer on our behalf. I've asked Councilman Brett Henderson if he'd lead the group in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So council, as I've indicated to you earlier this week, we do have need to go to closed session for purchase, exchange, or lease of property, pending or potential litigation and character or professional competence of an individual. That said, I will turn to you for a motion to approve the agenda as outlined.
Mayor, I can make that approval of our agenda for our Washington City Council regular meeting, September 25th, 2024.
I have a motion by Councilman Ivey.
Second.
Second by Councilman Coates. All in favor?
Aye.
The agenda is approved as outlined. As far as announcements go, on Friday, this Friday, September 27th at 8 a.m. and at 9 a.m., I'll explain that in a second, we have the Grapevine Trailhead ribbon cutting. So for those souls who are brave enough, come at 8 o'clock, and we're going to do a little hike. We're going to hike up the Grapevine Trail just a little bit, and I'm going to just kind of show it off a little bit. And then at 9 o'clock, we'll have the official ribbon cutting. So we would love to see you there. It's right off Washington Parkway, exit 13 on the north side, near Buena Vista Boulevard at that intersection into Washington Parkway. Also on Friday and Saturday, so Friday, September 27th, from 12 to 5 p.m. and Saturday, September 28th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. We will have our All About Art. I guess it's an annual event now right here at Veterans Park. So we're excited to have welcome the art community to Veterans Park and see all of the talent and just kind of celebrate all that they're doing. Council, those are the only major items I could see between now and our next meeting. Is there anything that I may have missed?
I just wanted to say really quick, there's going to be some really talented artist work that's going to be displayed, and so it'll be interesting to see who is going to be win the title. I know Councilman Henderson is the defending champion from last year, and so we'll see how it goes this year.
Mayor, I'm a little afraid this year because I saw that beautiful piece of art that Councilwoman Casperson did, and I think she may win the crown this year.
Well, I can tell you who's not going to win.
Me?
I'm just teasing. It's a friendly competition. It's probably me who's not going to win. I painted a bale of hay, so anyway. It's the shadowing, Morgan. The shadowing is more difficult than it would appear on the surface. I know you're an artist. Okay, moving on. The next item is declarations of abstentions and conflicts. Anything to declare or any abstentions? Seeing none, we'll continue on. We have two proclamations from some amazing youth groups. They are similar but different, and I love to see these youth groups, and they're going to tell you what they're promoting, but I love the fact that we have them both here tonight. So the first one this is item 4A. This is the reading of a proclamation declaring 2024 to 2025 as an alcohol-free school year for youth, and this is by the Washington County Youth Coalition. So I see Maylee Belknap and one of her associates there on the Youth Coalition. And Maylee is wearing two hats tonight. She's also a Youth Council member and a Youth Coalition member. So Youth Coalition, if you'll come forward and present your proclamation, and I'll even ask you to read it this evening. And introduce us to both of you.
Yes, okay. We're so grateful to be here, City Council. So my name is Maylee Belknap. I'm a senior at Crimson Cliffs, and I'm representing the Washington County Youth Coalition as their president this year.
And I'm Brianne Coombs. I'm also a senior at Crimson Cliffs. I'm representing as a secretary.
So we are here as volunteer high school students within the county, and we're here to request your support in our mission towards a healthy community. So this year we have 18 members on our roster. We have a few of them at Santa Clara right now, so unfortunately it's just me and Brianne here today. And I think our advisor will bring you the real version of this. This is like a fake one, and you can sign that one on another day. She'll bring it to you. And now Brianne will read this
Now,
to you.
Maylee, on that one, is that for all of us to sign?
Just for the mayor.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, each of the mayors across the county sign
Yeah,
that one.
and
That's
even
right. Okay.
county commissioners too.
Perfect. Yep.
Perfect. And now,
This is a great tradition.
thank you.
Whereas the Washington County Prevention Coalition and the Washington County Youth Coalition have designated the upcoming school year as an alcohol-free year for youth, sponsored by Reach for Hope and Southwest Prevention, a school year to set clear rules and expectations about no underage drinking. Whereas alcohol use by those under the age of 21 negatively affects their health and safety, and thus the health and well-being of all those living and working in the communities of Washington County. And whereas teens who use alcohol often progress to addictive behavior later in life, are at a much higher risk for developing mental illnesses as adults, and whereas addictive behaviors and mental illnesses also greatly increase the risk of suicide, and whereas underage drinking is a major public health problem that negatively impacts the brain development of our young people, causing a higher probability of early alcohol addiction, alcohol-related traffic accidents, and brain impairment. And whereas under the law, it is illegal for a minor to purchase, possess, or consume any alcoholic beverage, and it is illegal and punishable for anyone to sell, offer to sell, or furnish alcohol to a minor. And whereas the mayors of St. George City, Washington City, Hurricane City, Hilldale City, Ivan City, and Santa Clara City, in addition to the commissioners of Washington County and the state of Utah, are committed to the development of a major statewide public health information campaign with the overall objectives of changing social norms regarding depression, suicide ideation, underage drinking, and risky behaviors. And whereas we commend the overwhelming majority of our young people who are drug and alcohol free, and we desire all of our youth to be drug and alcohol free so as to develop in a healthy society. And now we, therefore, as mayors and commissioners, thereby proclaim our support, and offer an invitation to the entire community to help encourage family bonding and reduce underage drinking in order to improve the health and safety of all youth and adults in Washington County. We invite all members of our community, including individuals, families, governments, schools, religious, and civic organizations, to participate in and sponsor activities that will heighten awareness concerning the dangers of underage drinking to young people's health and safety, and will strengthen their ability and desire to refuse to drink alcohol. And whereas we declare the 2024-2025 school year as an alcohol-free school year for youth to bring awareness to risky behaviors and underage drinking and promote the bringing of families together.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, great job. I look forward to signing that and appreciate all the work that the Youth Coalition does. I remember a few years ago, you even were very instrumental in updating some of our ordinances in regards to substance abuse. So keep up the good work, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Move on to the next item of business. This is 4B. This is the reading of a proclamation declaring October as drug-free for youth by the Washington City Council. I'll invite Jade Chalice to come forward and speak on behalf of the Youth Council. Ms. Chalice, it's good to see you guys. It's good to see the numbers. My goodness, everybody showed up tonight. Even on the back row, they showed up.
Okay. My name is Jade Chalice, Chair of Safety Police for the Washington City Youth Council. I want to thank you for giving me time on the agenda to present our proclamation to make the month of October 2024 drug-free for the city. The Youth Council theme this year is Dare to Lead, and today we dare to lead out to help the youth of Washington City follow us as their peers, as we set an example of the importance of understanding as to why to be drug-free. We understand the dangers from illegal drugs, tobacco, alcohol, medicine without doctor's prescription, and now the new information involving the dangers of using electric cigarettes. Mayor Staley, Council, thank you for standing with us and declaring this month drug-free by signing our proclamation today and proclaiming the month drug-free. This reads, Whereas the Washington City Youth Council want children and other youth to know about the dangers of drug abuse, and whereas we will ask children and other youth to follow the rules about not using drugs, and whereas we will set a good example for children and other youth by not using illegal drugs, which includes tobacco, electric cigarettes, or medicine without a prescription. And now, therefore, the Washington City Youth Council, along with the Washington City Council, duly declares the month of October 2024 in the city of Washington, Utah, drug-free, and encourages everyone who cares about children and youth to do the same. We dare to lead. Could you come down and join us for a picture?
We absolutely can, because we stand with you. And you do set a good example and lead. So let's go down and get that picture. Well said.
I really did not want to wear them, and I kind of forgot.
All right, I'm coming right in the middle here, Miss Leah. Heck yes, I do. You did such a good job. So cool under pressure, Gabe. Hey, thanks again. You did. Oh, this is for me.
That's for
This
you.
is for me.
Yes.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you guys. Mr. Brown, Miss Sagan, Mr. Hughes, Mr. Hughes. Can we give one more round of applause to our amazing youth, our drug-free and alcohol-free youth? And they are busy. They're going about doing so much good. Right now, they have to participate in the Pine View Homecoming Parade. I will excuse the youth council at this time. Thanks for being here, guys. We appreciate all you do. We're on to item 5, which is the consent agenda, consisting of the approval of minutes, consideration to approve the minutes from the city council meeting of 8/28/24 and 9/11/24, the board audit report from August 2024, and a dedication plat approving a road dedication for Ara Parkway. Council, are there any clarifications or brief discussion before I call for a motion to approve the consent agenda? I'll call for that motion now.
Mayor, may I just make one comment, please?
Sure.
Oh, as soon as I said that, forget it. It's all good. Thank you.
Mayor, I'll make the motion that we approve the consent agenda as read.
I have a motion to approve the consent agenda by Councilman Coates, second by Councilman Henderson. All in favor?
Aye.
The consent agenda is approved unanimously. Item 6, conditional use. Item 6A, this is a consideration to approve conditional use permit C-24-11 for a grocery store located at 175 West Buena Vista Boulevard. And I'm going to add and Main. The applicant is RSP Architecture. City Planner Eldon Gibb will present to the council on this item. Mr. Gibb.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. The site layout shows 4 out parcels, which are not part of this approval. The out parcels are shown to illustrate the larger picture of the site. These out parcels will be required to obtain CUP permit approval when they are ready to move forward.
Can I ask a quick question on that? City ordinance says 5,000 feet and above. If they want to develop them under 5,000 feet, because at least one of the 4 is under that, are we going to require that they all have to come in for CUP or only if they meet city ordinance?
Yeah, it does state that. However, they're off of Buena Vista, which requires any size of building to get a CUP.
Okay.
Good question. Total acreage of this site is approximately 13.22 acres. The Winco building will be 84,000 square feet and include 444 parking stalls.
It's not working.
Parking is adequate for the Winco space. As shown on the plan, each out parcel will provide its own parking for the proposed future uses. The Winco building will be 32 feet tall, constructed of concrete tilt-up panels and finished tan in color. The finishes of the building, along with the landscaping, is aesthetically pleasing. The zoning designation at this location is C2. The surrounding zoning is PCD to the north, C2 to the east, open space to the south, and C3 and R3 to the west. The Planning Commission reviewed this request on September 18th, 2024, and unanimously recommended approval of C-24-11, allowing for the Winco grocery store to be built on the corner of Buena Vista Boulevard and Main Street, as shown in the exhibits with the findings and conditions as outlined in the staff report. That concludes staff report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Council, what questions do you have for Mr. Gibb?
So we're building the 2 accesses with this conditional use, the one on Brio Parkway and then the other access to the southwest. Those are both being.
Correct, yes, both accesses will come.
And the trail will be built in the first phase, even though it's part of that other future parcel.
I would ask the developer to clarify that, the applicant. I'd like to hear that from them.
I have a couple questions on the southwest corner of that, where that retaining wall is. we're showing upwards of 24-foot of retaining wall. Our city ordinance doesn't allow a wall that tall, correct?
There you go, Drew. You're usually the one
We
telling people to
really
do that.
only call that out in our hillside, that they have to do a 10-foot max with a 5-foot return and a 10-foot. Any other place, I don't think we have the limit stated to.
Well, so I guess my concern is, you got the upper parking for the park, where the parking lot is, and then it drops down to where the park is, and you got a 20-plus foot wall. You know, I mean, I wouldn't encourage kids to go back and forth, but that's where they're parking to go to the park. And, you know, it would not surprise me if we got somebody that's walking back and forth and whatnot. I just don't, I mean, that to me is a little bit high to be right next to a city park. So whether that gets terraced somewhat, or there's some sort of fall protection on that, you know, where it would be an issue around the park area, I think that's probably something that we ought to require. What's that?
I said you'd have to have a railing on it from the parking lot onto that. I mean, you couldn't just, I think we'd require a railing. You don't want cars going off that foot edge either, right? You need more than a railing, you need a Jersey barrier or something like that.
No, and so that's why I'm bringing it up, right? So, you know, whether we require a railing, or whether we require some terracing, or whether we require something, I think there needs to be something there to mitigate some of that concern, at least for me.
That's good points. We'll have the applicant, Public Works, address that. Good points, Councilman. Additional questions, comments for staff from the council? I have one if the council doesn't. Eldon, could you just kind of point out I think the 444 parking sounds great. Could you just kind of point out the landscape plan within the parking area? Trees, plants, that makes a big difference to have some of that done.
Yeah.
Typical one right here.
And
Or is there another?
there is another, there's a specific landscape plan. Everything that's dark, shadowed out will come with the Winco development.
I guess I'm just looking for trees and greenage, foliage in the parking area, in those little landscape areas, medians or whatever you call them, planter boxes or whatever.
That
On
one's-
page LSO1.
Third tier, or is it on?
I think it's on that first row. We were just, if you zoom in on that one right there, that should show the trees, 1 tree per every 5 stalls. It'll be heavily treed.
Talking. Let's wait for it to catch up. There we go.
Well, we're getting the one sheet, but it looks like it's broken up into 7 or 6 additional sheets. But we don't have those in our packet, right?
They are in the packet. They're towards the tail end, I
Okay, they're in the
believe.
second exhibit.
Yeah, we can definitely break it down by sheet, or this is the overall plan.
Can we not fit more trees in the middle? Like, we're hitting the ends, but like in the middle, I feel like there's potential we could put some somewhere. Just, I really like how they've done it in like the Bloomington Walmart and that, and have more trees throughout the parking lot for sure. I mean, it does no good for the first few years, but long-term, it's better.
Okay, so we'll ask the applicant to address that. The public hearing for this item occurred at the Planning Commission. The council has viewed that. Some of us were there in person. We appreciate those that attended that and gave their comments. They were listened to, they were considered. We heard your comments there. We also had over 200 comments online. And I would say about 98, maybe 99% of those were in favor of this establishment coming into Washington City. So that shows a lot of broad community support, which I'm encouraged by. At this time, I'd like to invite the applicant's representative to come forward. If you'd just kind of state your name. If you could address the trail question from Councilman Coates, the wall question by Councilman Belliston, and the landscape in the parking area question that I brought up.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name's Brandon Johnson with the civil engineering firm JSA Civil, here on behalf of Winco Foods. Really excited to be here. We'll start by just kind of addressing the comments in the order that I think I heard them. First comment's a good question about the retaining wall. It is an upwards of 20-foot tall retaining wall. We are required to have fall protection both for auto vehicles and for pedestrians. So you'll see two types there. You'll see guardrail for the cars and the vehicles and the trucks, and then you'll see a fence, that meets fall protection for pedestrians at the top of that as well. So we feel that we'll meet all the requirements for fall protection up there.
What's the wall made out of? What type of wall material are you using?
We don't have a design for the retaining wall yet. Typically, we will do block walls with tiebacks underneath them. So it's a little bit more of an architectural detail than if you just see a cast-in-place concrete wall. Final design of that will come in with our, construction documents of that, but we'd certainly kind of entertain options.
So like an MSE wall that.
Exactly, yeah. So, yeah.
Any questions on that? Any further clarification from your end? Okay, the trail and the landscaping, and then anything else you'd like to share with us. We're excited to have you guys here tonight. Welcome. We appreciated seeing you last week as well.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I'll tackle the trail. Maybe if we go back to that landscape plan, I can address. But this either site plan will work. So you can see the trail that we're intending on building. I'm going to call it the south end, but along the interstate, and then up the adjacent parcel where it's shown darker there. We are going to finish the loop of that trail as the first phase of this project, and then anything that comes on that out parcel will just have to incorporate that trail into their design long term.
So you'll do any landscaping along that between the trail and their property line right now?
Correct. So if you can go to the landscape plan on that. And I know it's not the easiest thing to see on here, but the darker landscaping is what's intended to be first phase. So what we actually have on there right now is you can see the landscaping on the lower left corner of that where we're planting along the interstate. And so that, we're intending to do that, and we can do that wherever else we need to along the way.
Well, I'm talking along the east side, because the trail, it's going there and then it's heading, I'm assuming you're going to build the trail all the way up.
Yeah.
The east side, so in between, is it I just don't see any plants there.
Yeah, and they're not shown on the landscape plan yet. I think we can definitely work with city staff to get some plants on there, so.
At least along the trail.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want to overplant the out parcel yet and limit use,
No,
but we
makes
can
sense.
certainly finish the trail.
Just something to help look finished along that section.
Yeah.
So what about the trees inside the parking lot?
And then the trees inside the parking lot. So this was the required amount of trees per city code. We get the comment a lot asking for trees in the parking lot, and we definitely use some other strategies if we need to. We like to go with some diamond planters in the middle. So every 4 stall, we put a diamond planter. So one tree will shade 4 parking stalls, and it doesn't require us to lose any parking stalls. Obviously, having the right parking count's a big deal. So if that's something the council would like to see, I think we'd go that route with these and add some trees throughout parking, but not lose any stalls.
That's what I would recommend. I think we should have those throughout. I think it'll be a benefit to your project and the city to have that, and we don't want you to lose stalls. You know what you need.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I was telling the other council, someone, I don't remember. I don't think your store's big enough, but that's just my opinion.
It's a great problem to have.
Based on our area, from what I know is these national companies come in, think we're small, and then all of a sudden you're saying your store is too small, so.
I can assure you that this is the biggest store that they built. So they're not underestimating the amount of traffic and volume they expect. There's a couple different size stores, and this is their biggest prototype store.
I heard there's a bigger one, so that's all right. We'll take the second biggest.
There are older stores that are slightly bigger, yes.
Right. We did a little research.
The qualifier was that they build.
Yes.
Meaning now.
So, yeah.
Well,
yeah, you're great. So you're good. I think we resolved the trail. I think we resolved the wall. I think we're on the same page with adding those. What did you call them again? The diamond
planters.
Diamond planters.
Yes.
Okay.
What are your motion?
Similar to what they've done over in Smith's Marketplace.
Yeah, that looks good. I think that's a good item to add as a condition. Anything else that you'd like to add, or council, any additional questions while we have the applicant in front of us? Anything you'd like to add?
I have nothing else to add other than just to tell you how great your staff is to work with. We've worked with them pretty extensively for a while. We get the chance to do this with a lot of different jurisdictions, and your staff has been second to none. So
you know what? We absolutely, we echo that, we know that. Let me just take a little privilege real quick. Staff, if you've touched this project in any way, will you just raise your hand? Will you just raise your hand? Jordan, Rusty, Michelle, did you raise the hands? Rusty, you should have both hands up. My point was, every single staff member in this room has touched it. We're behind you 100%. Now I'm turning to the council to see if they're behind you 100%, which I think they are.
Mayor, I'm ready to make a motion.
Go ahead, Councilman Coates.
I'll make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit C-24-11 for a grocery store located at 175 West Buena Vista Boulevard. The applicant's RSP Architecture with the findings and conditions provided by staff with the additional 3 conditions. First condition is that the parking lot has additional trees throughout with the triangle
diamond planter
to fill in the middle of the parking lot. The next condition is that the trail be constructed in the first phase and landscaped along the edges. And then the third condition was that well, do I need to mention the wall? I mean, I would say an MSC wall or whatever. I just don't want like some ugly concrete wall there. So how would you want me to address that, Drew?
So you want it kind of somewhat of a decorative flair to it, or?
Yeah, I just think
It's an architectural wall.
and I'll identify that 20-foot wall in the southwest corner needs to be an architectural wall, working with our staff.
Have a motion by Councilman Coates, second by Councilman Belliston. Let's go roll call on this, starting with Councilman Belliston.
Aye.
Henderson.
Aye.
Coates. Ivy. Councilwoman Casperson.
Aye.
Mayor, can I have a personal privilege now that we've voted?
That is approved unanimously. Councilman Ivy.
I just wanted to say that the outreach from our community, now that it's voted on, has been overwhelming. The reputation of this organization has preceded itself. Not only do we need it, we needed a quality grocery store like this is going to bring to our community. So I appreciate you've had a good experience here. We're equally as excited to have you here to serve our community.
Well said, Councilman.
So, Mayor, what's the proposed open date? Or
Come up again, just, that's what I'm thinking right now too. Can you give us an idea of your timeline?
2 months.
Yeah, you got it by Christmas?
I believe when I was here at Planning Commission, they asked if we could be open by Thanksgiving, which unfortunately is not going to be feasible.
We're going to give you Christmas. That's another month. Why are you complaining?
We don't have a defined construction start date yet. From the end of this meeting, we will start final construction documents, the retaining wall, the store, everything. Those usually take us about 2 to 3 months to put that package together and submit. And then we'll start the process from there. So I have every expectation that we'll be in construction, early 2025. And then look to be open as soon as we can after that.
Is it typical build time months or a year?
It's about 9 months.
Okay, so possibly by the end of 25, possibly.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you officially have your entitlements.
Yes. Thank you very much.
That phase of work is done. Now, we're going to excuse you so you can get working on the next phase. Go get those construction drawings done.
Understood. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys,
Thank you.
and
Yep.
share our appreciation for a good partnership with your bosses. All right, council, let's move along. We'll move on to item 7, which is ordinances. 7A. This is consideration to approve an ordinance for zone change Z-24-05 from RA5 to RA1 to RA1-15, located at 2140 East Washington Dam Road. The applicant is listed as Rosenberg Associates. We know you. Welcome. City Planner Eldon Gibb, come forward and present to the council on this item.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. The R115 request is for the purpose of developing the land into a residential development. This particular location has a general plan designation of very low density, which allows for the lot sizes of 15,000 square feet in size and larger. The surrounding zoning to this parcel is RA1 and RA half to the north, R130 to the east, PUD to the south, and R115 to the west. Staff has no concerns with this proposed zone change as outlined. The Planning Commission reviewed this request on September 18th, 2024, and unanimously recommended approval of Z-24-05 for the zone change request from RA5 and RA1 to the proposed R115. And that was based on the findings as stated in staff report. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Council, what questions do you have for Mr. Gibb? No questions. Thank you, Eldon.
Thank you.
Again, the public hearing on this item occurred at the Planning Commission last week. This time, I'll invite the applicant's representative to come forward and answer any questions the council might have for the applicant. And if you just state your name, you know the routine.
I'm Jared Bates with Rosenberg Associates, here to answer any questions you have.
It's good to see you, Jared. We appreciate the quality work you and your firm do. Questions for Mr. Bates on this zone change? You heard the presentation a week ago. You heard the public hearing. You heard the dialogue amongst the Plan Commission. These are probably exactly the way you like it. The council has no questions for you that I can see at this time.
Thank you.
Council, I'm going to turn to you now for any dialogue you'd like to have amongst yourselves and or a motion.
If there's no other comments from the council, I'll make a motion.
Go ahead, Councilman Ivey.
Thank you. Motion to approve an ordinance for zone change Z-24-05 from RA5 to R-1-15 located at 2140 East Washington Dam Road.
You've heard the motion by Councilman Ivey. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Belliston. Let's go roll call, starting with Councilmember Henderson.
Aye.
Coates. Ivey. Casperson. Belliston. That is approved unanimously. And Mr. Bates, you might be home for dinner. On time for dinner. Okay, buddy? Good to see you. Item 8, Finance. 8A, Washington City Financial Quarterly Report given by our one and only Finance Director, Brian Brown. Take it away, buddy.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Let's see if this shows. Usually Steve just works his magic and it shows up. Oh, it works for you. I can't believe it's been a year. We're wrapping up the fiscal year 24 year. And we're currently in the process of preparing for the audit, and the auditors will be on site in the end of October. And then they'll present right around the first council meeting in December. So to kind of go over this year, you can see this is a breakdown of the general fund and capital projects. The capital projects would include streets, public work, and leisure service. You can see that 22 and 24, fiscal year 22 and 24, are pretty similar. The revenues were up about 460, and the expenses were down about 427,000. In the capital projects, the expenses are going to vary depending on what we do each year. The revenues were down a little, and I looked at that, and that's due to developments. We had less the big developments come in, but it's still pretty comparable revenue as last year. Now to go into a little more detail on the general fund, you can see here's the total revenue. Mainly the revenues in the general fund are taxes and charges for services. And so I have some graphs on taxes we'll go over in a second. But as far as charges for services, the community center was up about 50,000. Golf course was up about 280,000. And then solid waste was up, and recycling. Now those are passed through. We collect those as user fees, and then we pass those on to the county. The only items that were down this year were the fines and forfeitures, that's the court fees, and then the intergovernmental revenue. And that is mainly the ARPA funds that we received during COVID. So we received those in 22 and 23, but nothing in 24. So that's why we see that big decrease there. And moving on to the expenses for the general fund, you can see the general fund, that item there mainly consists of HRIS, finance, treasurer, the city manager, attorney, the court. Those are what items fall into there. And we see a slight increase there, and it's mainly due to wages and insurance. Public safety, we see an increase there, is mainly due to wages. The highway and improvement, how the accounting system's set up, that's where the fees for the solid waste and recycling come in, and we saw an increase in those fees that we paid out this year. Parks and Rec, the increase in that item was also due to wages, along with the community development. And then the transfers was mainly debt service. So that's just kind of a general breakdown of the general fund. Now, as I mentioned, taxes are the biggest revenue for the general fund. So I provided this graph with property taxes so you can kind of see what it's done over the last 3 years. This year we collected 4.3 million, we budgeted 4.4. And as you can see, the increase from last year, we received 1.1 million. That's not due to an increase, that's due to population growth. So the increase we see there is mainly due to population growth. If we were to freeze the population, property tax would be revenue neutral, meaning it would just be a flat line. We'd get the same amount every year. But because we have growth, it does increase. So there you can see the property tax. This is my favorite graph because it's really busy, no. But I tried to give you a breakdown of the sales tax because sales tax, you can see through this graph over the last 3 years, is kind of all over the place. I put the trend line in there because to me that's important to see, are the property or sales tax growing? So back in 21 and 22, we saw huge growth in sales tax. Now in 24, you can kind of see that line is flattening out. So sales tax, they're not growing as fast as they were in the prior years. What's interesting with this, I map it out. Traditionally, June and December are our highest sales tax collection months. But this year it didn't follow the trend. It came a month earlier, and then June was lower. So we see the last 2 months were lower. But for the year, we collected 9.1 million in sales tax, and we budgeted 10. Had the last 2 months been a little more like they were in prior years, we would have been closer to making the budget. Next, moving on to Drew's favorite item is building permits. As you remember, in the first year, building permits kind of were on a roller coaster. They were low, then they jumped up, and then they were kind of flattened out in the year. Well, we actually ended up, in 2021 was the highest year. We did 923 permits, and this year we did 844. So it was the second highest year of permits we issued in Washington City for new homes, single homes. And then a summary of the RAP tax. We're about through our 10 years on the RAP tax. You can see our total collections there for 9 years, total distribution and total balance. So the current balance is the 2.8, and then the amount committed for facilities and arts is the 1.2 million. So that's just a brief summary where we're at on RAP tax. And interest rates, as you can see throughout the years, where interest rates have been high, we're still collecting a lot of, our investments are doing well. Most of the interest comes from the capital projects because there's so much tied up in that with impact fees. That's why it has such a large jump. Now breaking down the enterprise funds. So the enterprise funds operate like a business, and the goal for the enterprise funds is to cover their operating capital and costs through user fees. And as I looked at this, you can see the enterprise funds we have are electric, sewer, storm drain, and water. As you look at electric last year, there was a lot of price fluctuations last year with energy. And so that's why you see the higher costs. And then this year they kind of stabilized and they drop back down. And I'll go in through these each in more detail and kind of give you so you can see a better picture. It shows a better picture when we break it out by operating cost and capital projects. You can see the revenues continue to grow throughout the year, and then the expenses will vary depending on what projects they're doing. So they're just not, it really depends on the projects to do. Some years they have more projects, other years they have less projects, so the expenses kind of jump around. So to break it down, the electric fund, as you can see here, you can see the total revenue, but when we get down to the capital outlay, the capital, it was similar last year, and the debt service, that 4 million drop in operating expense was due to the variation in cost and utilities because it stabilized, and so we see what an outlier 2023 really was. And then the personnel.
How is there a $5 million surplus? Is that the outliers just affecting the next fiscal year, Brian?
So that's this year. Are you looking at 24?
Yeah.
So if I take the total revenue minus expense, then there's, this year, their net is $5 million.
Correct. I think my question was whether that was related to the prior year's performance or something else.
So some of that what is it?
Power cost adjustment?
Yeah, the power cost adjustment. Some of that carries over. So some of that revenue was to make up for 23 because that power cost adjustment lasts 12 months.
Yeah, it's a rolling 12-month average, and so the way it's built, when the power prices go way up, then it takes a little while for rates to go up to meet that, and so that's why we ended up with a negative last year. But when the power prices go down, it's a rolling 12-month average, and it takes longer for the PCA, the power cost adjustment, to drop, which actually helps replenish your coffers while it does that. So it's kind of a built-in mechanism for smoothing out the revenue and expenses in that department.
Does that answer your question? And then moving next to the sewer, we can see the enterprise revenue, the impact fees, where that's at, and then the miscellaneous revenue. Capital outlay, we see we didn't do as many projects this year. Operating expense, I looked at that, and the main reason for that increase was for sewer fee charges. So it costs us more to provide the sewer than what we were charged through the county. And then personnel, it's went down slightly, but they did have some vacant positions throughout the year. So that's why that's down a little. Storm drain, once again, you can see the enterprise revenue, where that's at, the impact fees. And then when you look at the capital outlay, we see a big decrease this year. Last year it did 1.1 million, this year only 126. Operating expense, we see a slight increase there. And then once again, the wages increases actually this is another one, they had some vacant positions, so that's why it's down a little this year. And then finally, the water
Brian, are all these nets including depreciation?
That's the only item we haven't done yet for the audit.
Okay, so when you see these turn out negative, it's negative including the depreciation, meaning?
Prior years, 22 and 23 included depreciation, only 24, we haven't done the.
Okay.
It's usually one of the last things we get to before the audit. So we haven't posted depreciation expense for 2024. So you can see with the water, the enterprise revenue, what they've collected, and the impact fees. Capital outlays down just a little, the debt service, those tend to be steady payments, so we see roughly the debt service usually should be about the same. Operating expense, we see a slight change here, and when I looked into it, it was mainly due to the purchase of water from Sand Hollow and Quell, and also there was a irrigation study, so that's why there was an increase on the operating expense. And then personnel, this one we did see a slight increase, and that would be due to the increases. So that's a summary of all the enterprise funds. And then the last one that we added a few months ago is the current fund balance by fund with the restricted and unrestricted. So you can see what we have in each fund, and if it's restricted or if it's available to spend. If it's restricted, it's set aside for certain things. Unrestricted basically is you can spend it for whatever the city needs. I didn't mention earlier, but the fund balance for the general fund is right around 19% for this year. So that's where we stand with fund balance. I'd like to thank all the departments this year. Everyone did a great job with their budgets, and this year we only brought one budget amendment to the city council. So we stayed within our budgets. Everyone did a great job in monitoring their budget and doing whatever they could to make sure they're in their budget. And also, we were pretty close on the revenues and calculating what we'd have for this year. So I'd just like to say thanks to all the departments for all their hard work, everything they do, because them being efficient in everything they do makes finance life a lot easier. Do you have any questions regarding this last fiscal year?
Councilman Heidi.
Yes, I do. A couple. You mentioned in your presentation, you talked about big developments are down. So I'm just wondering where our building permits were the second highest year for the fiscal year. How do those two converge?
So the building permits, those are for single homes. So those were actually up, but the big developments, so when they come in for the plats and all that, those were actually down.
But how does that feed into the budget? That's what I'm trying to understand. Because if the building permits are up, but big development's down, I just want to make sure I understood what you said.
So new projects were down, where we have all these projects that have been approved, where when they come in and build their home, they have to file for a building permit. And so those are the ones that were up. We did 184 of those last year. But when the big projects come in for you guys to approve, we didn't do as many of those last year, so we didn't collect as many up. For example, when the new grocery store comes in, they'll pay impact fees on that. When they
Gotcha.
So since we've seen a bit of a lag, I mean, I've noticed it in planning commission and stuff. I mean, there's been a definite lag in development projects coming in. Likely see that next year or two, and building permits will be down because there's not lots to build on because the developments have come down, right?
I'll add to that, less zoning changes. An amendment, even though you did some last year, not as much as the previous years, your subdivisions were down quite a bit. You know, approving those, we have a lot of lots out there, but we just didn't do as many subdivisions as we had. So those fees didn't, you know, there's probably, I don't know, it could be anywhere from 30 to 50,000, I think, maybe in the whole set in the year. Might have been short because of the lack. I mean, we still have lots available. We still have all that going. It's just not as freewheeling on creating subdivisions and zone changes and things like that as there has been, so.
Ryan, let me shift gears just a second. So you talked about the golf course has seen an increase of 288,000, the community center 48,000. Are we getting closer to where those two entities are paying for themselves? Are we getting close to that? I know that's something that we've kind of kept an eye on for the last several years.
The golf course, I can look at that again. The golf course, I think it wasn't last year, but the year before, it covered all of its expenses. And I think last year they're close, and my guess is they're probably pretty close again this year. The community center's probably been right around 60%. They cover about 60% of their, but I can double check those. And
But they saw 48,000 in gains this last year as well, so they're getting closer to that target.
Yeah.
Okay, the last question I have is, this is maybe for the council to consider as well. I remember several years ago, we petitioned our legislators to change the fund balance from 25 to 30%.
35.
Excuse me?
I think it's 35.
And now we are right at 19, so we've gone from like 30% fund balance, whatever, 30, right around there to 19. I just think that that's something that we need to be aware of when we're financing, that we're comfortable with the amount of reserves that we have, whether, you know, if those are exact numbers or not, but 19% now. I know that we were closer to 25 and 30 for a long time. So just just want to keep an eye on that, see if that's where we want to be, or if it's more prudent that we do spend some of the fund balance. Sometimes that is more prudent.
And the main driver behind that is where you look at the revenue expenses, the closer they get, then that means that fund balance is going to be lower generally. And that's why I tried to show with that sales tax. Yeah, we had a great year, but sales tax was only up about, I think it was about 350,000 over, where the year before was like almost 800,000. So we're just not gonna see the continual 10% sales tax increase. It's gonna slow a little, so we have to be careful that our our expenses don't outmatch our revenues.
That's true, but fund balance, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't fund balance our savings?
It's tied to that. It's based off your total revenues. There's a calculation for it. So it takes your total, there's a formula for it.
So it's not held as like what we would have our savings in the bank. It's held differently than that. It's in part of the operating expenses. It's not, because I thought fund balance savings, it was just.
It is our savings. What he's saying, when he calculates that percentage, it's based on a percentage of your anticipated next year's expenses.
It's
revenue.
revenues.
Sorry, your anticipated next year's revenue. So if we don't necessarily get the revenue, or we anticipate less revenue next year, then it makes that percentage different, even though the balance is still in our savings account.
So that's not a real good comparison to say that we were at 30 and now we're at 19, because we still are.
Because as our revenues go up and we had the same amount in savings, then that percentage drops.
Okay.
But you take your revenues minus your expenses as part of that calculation, so.
But I think what you're trying to get at is it is difficult to keep absorbing the type of increases we've seen just generally in the market, the type of inflation we've had. But we know that for instance, property tax hasn't gone up. So we rely a lot on increases in sales tax. And if, things like we did tonight, approving a new large grocery store help and other increases to sales tax, that definitely helps. But there comes a point where we can't always just rely on sales tax to continue to fund the things that we need.
And I think that's my biggest question in asking that, or my concern, or what I wanted to clarify, was that the trends that we're following, is those fund balance trends diminishing, or is it going to recover? That's kind of where I'm personally interested in knowing, is whether or not those are diminishing or if they're holding their own. So.
Yeah, I think a year ago we were right around 25%, so it has been. Now that's not a final number because it all depends on the audited statements. Because like I said, we have to post depreciation, which may affect the fund balance calculation, will affect it. So that's just right now where we're standing, a rough estimate of where it'll be at.
I'd like to maybe add that to the next discussion, what that looks like at your next report, just to kind of make sure that we're staying. I would like to learn more about that and how that looks going forward, because I know that we're a very frugal city. Our finances are well done and we're conservative in our approach, but just wanting to keep an eye on that fund balance to make sure it doesn't get below a level that if we have to cut some spending or whatever that might look like to maintain the levels that the council would like to see.
Generally, I try and watch. I have a spreadsheet. I'll calculate it I try to do at least every quarter, and I can do it more if I need to.
I think for the last year, you've put that on each quarterly report, haven't you? The fund balance, or an approximate fund balance?
Yeah.
So we can keep doing that and talk about it each quarter.
Anything else?
How's your leg doing?
It's still healing. It's not where I want it to be, but it's going to take time.
Are you running?
Some, but.
Let's put it this way. There was a point where I was going to race him and I thought I could beat him, and I'm not sure I can anymore.
So he is getting better.
He might still be able to beat me. Now, if only thing I really do to ride my spin bike, that doesn't hurt too bad. He can't beat me on my spin bike. I'll beat him any day.
I think the real question, if you and Jeremy are racing, is there a Diet Coke 50 yards away? In that case, I might put my money on Jeremy. Otherwise, it's you every day, even with the injury.
Yeah, I don't need
It'd be interesting to watch that, and Councilman Coates, I heard that was quite the battle.
Oh, that's a good point. Can we reenact that?
I don't know if it was a battle at all, do you? I mean, you were behind me. I was there.
I won the first half, you won the second half. Like a tie.
That I ran the first half too.
I saw that.
Someone get pushed. I just saw someone fall.
Sprinter, he's a jogger, right? I mean, so I won the sprint, he won the long distance portion.
Brian, thanks for all you do, and very classy of you to give credit to each of the department heads who work really hard to create and follow the budgets. I know you and the city manager work really hard on that, and unfortunately, we don't have a crystal ball on things, but seeing the way that fiscal year '24 played out, you couldn't be more pleased with your work, and
I tried to buy one on Amazon, but didn't work.
it just didn't work, yeah. It didn't come with the easy button.
Hey, thank you.
Okay. All right, let's move along in our agenda. We'll move into report of officers from assigned committees. You had a good group out here today, Councilman. What do you have to report?
They spoke for themselves.
I hear you.
You know, they stole the show today, so Youth Council's doing a great job, and we're all proud of them.
Katie Allen is the mayor there this year.
She is. Yeah, she'll do a great job.
Good. Appreciate all your work there. Anything else to report on, Councilman? Councilman Henderson.
I don't have anything, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilman Coates.
Today.
The property out at the landfill's taking shape.
Yeah, it's taking shape. Well, I can give you an update. It's definitely behind schedule. I thought I mentioned that before, but I think they had some problems with some of the materials, so, but it's coming. They won't give us a hard date.
The road alignment's better?
Well, it's gonna be better because they're gonna get rid of the access is gonna go into the landfill and not be such a hard, sharp turn, so, and there'll be plenty of stacking distance, but yeah, it's coming along for sure. We have some board meetings coming up in the next couple of weeks, and
good. Councilman Ivey.
So legislative policy is fast and furious right now. The meetings are just impacted with so much information, trying to adhere to the governor's requests for affordable housing and a lot of that legislation that's been passed, trying to determine whether it's been successful, what it's done, and what's coming this next year. But what I like most about it is when, even at the league, when we were at the league conference, you know, they're up there talking, and we've already done most everything that they're talking about. We're always on the leading edge of those discussions, and again, you know, our staff, our council is very astute in knowing what those trends are and trying to stay ahead. But there is a little bit of a tug of war going on, as you know, between the state and the cities, and trying to, you know, we say that we want to be in partnerships, not preemption, and so that's kind of what we're trying to proceed with on the legislative policy, to say, hey, let us be part of the solution, because that really is where the rubber meets the road. We can help with that in those decisions.
So on that note, Councilman, when we were at the league, I noticed you grabbed some of those pamphlets. Did those come home with you or Jeremy? I was wondering, those might be good to get in the hands of, make sure that each elected, and that we get those in the hands of
So
some of
Mayor,
our
I handed
staff.
those out to the council last meeting.
Oh, good.
But I may have some extras even beyond that if somebody would like.
I think they just have some great talking points, and I think I've lost mine.
Okay, I'll get you one, Mayor.
And I appreciate that.
And if the council or staff, anyone, audience is interested in those, it was a pamphlet that kind of detailed what the legislation has been. And, you know, sometimes in those legislative actions, you know, there's best intended, but really, again, Mayor, I just think it's important that we have a say in what those are, where they're actually implemented and seeing the result. Are they going to achieve what we're trying to do? And Councilman Henderson and I were having a great conversation earlier tonight about the absolute need for affordable housing.
And Councilwoman Cashman's looking at the pamphlet right now. Yeah. She's kept a copy.
So it's just something that we all need to be engaged in, and we all need to feel ownership in that, because it affects all of our families. Every one of us is affected by our children with the stark reality that they may not be able to live here. If they can't afford to live here, and they have to move away, and that's, you know, that's not what we want. So but I am proud of our city. I did, just in way of information, I'll share this with the council. I did reach out to a couple of the presenters' cities and waiting for some information back to them that I'll share when I get, that had some really, what I felt were innovative ideas and some forward-thinking stuff that maybe we'd present and maybe consider as we have these discussions going into fall and then into the session, to help our legislators to know what we need as a city to be successful in this as well.
Very good. Anything else?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Castros. I'll just briefly report on Dixie MPO. We're having a lot of discussion on safe streets and active transportation. City of St. George is adding some trail counters to just kind of track the amount of use that's being done on some of their asphalt trails, and we've added some as well. So those are helpful. And then just kind of safe streets and just kind of throughout the region. So we're doing well there, and water's an ongoing topic. I'll let you stay dry on that tonight. That's all I have. We'll move on to the next item, city manager report. Jeremy.
Mayor, seeing as though Dick and Debbie are absent tonight, or Dick and Laurie, excuse me, Laurie.
Missing
are
someone.
absent
My
tonight.
goodness, that whole side is empty without them here.
I'll keep it short. I would talk a little bit about the gym remodel that's going along really well. If anybody has been by there, and we may have to take a council trip over there. It's a little bit of a construction site right now, but they're pouring the footings for the new lobby area, and it's ready to start really get put back together. So it's pretty exciting. They've done a great job on it. Very old building, quite a challenge, but they're doing a really good, nice job. It'll be a good asset for the community. So thanks. That's all I have, Mayor.
Appreciate all you do, Jeremy. The next item, 11, is closed session. We do need to go into closed session for purchase, exchange, or lease of property pending or potential litigation and character or competence or professional competence of an individual. I'll call for a motion to move into closed session.
So moved.
Have a motion by Councilman Coates.
Second?
Second by Councilman Henderson. All in favor?
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. We'll move into closed session. Council, let's take 5 minutes here. Let's plan on starting back up in there in 7:10. It gives you actually just 4 minutes.